All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Bajra Samaja, Bajra Samaja, Bajra Samaja, protectors of all sentient beings without exception, deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is, Bhagawans and your retinues, please come here. Argyam Paryam Pushpe Dupe Aloke Kende Nevede Shabda Pratijaso. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, four continents, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure realm. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. Namo to the Guru, the complete purity of phenomenal existence. I make offerings to you who manifest in the ground of phenomenal existence and supplicate you for the total liberation of the three realms. Grant your blessings of dredging samsara from its very depths. Lord, wish fulfilling gem, ornament of my crown, beyond word and expression, is your victorious mind, endowed with the five superior primordial wisdoms, epitome of love, the one with kindness, precious protector of wandering beings. I supplicate you in the innate state of my mind, bless me in that state of suchness, grant your blessings for realizing this primordially birthless and completely pristine mind as the Dharmakaya beyond thought. Now please turn to the general laying aside. Last great Guru, Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who reside in the 10 directions and 3 times. I, who am called Kunju Yishi Durji, supplicate you, turn your awakened attention to me. From beginningless samsaric time until this very moment, under the power of the afflictive emotions, attachment, aggression, confusion, pride, and jealousy, I have committed the 10 non-virtuous actions through the gates of my body, speech, and mind. I have committed the 5 heinous crimes and the 5 secondary heinous crimes. I have transgressed the individual liberation vows, transgressed the precepts of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the samayas of the great vehicle secret mantra. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards the three jewels. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my gurus and teachers. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my father and mother. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my companions in the pure spiritual life. I have abandoned the sublime Dharma and disparaged the noble Sangha. In short, I now lay aside all faults and transgressions whatsoever that have become obstacles to the higher realms and to liberation, and that have become the cause for samsara and the lower realms. Before you, the great Guru, Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, of the 10 directions, and 3 times I expose the faults. I confess them, I am contrite, I regret them, I will not conceal them, I will not hide them. Henceforth I will restrain myself and abstain from them. If I do not expose and lay them aside, they will not be transformed. Therefore, by revealing and laying them aside, may they be cleared, may I be purified. Nam to the mandala of you, victorious Idam deities. Om, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Vajra exalted body. Ah, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Padma exalted speech. Hum, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the perfect exalted mind. Hri, I expose and lay aside the broken root and branch samayas. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed knowingly. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed unknowingly. The 3 non-virtues of the body, the 4 non-virtues of speech, the 3 non-virtues of the mind. I confess each of the 10 non-virtues individually, with faultless disciplined conduct, possessing completely pure disciplined conduct, and through the disciplined conduct that is free of arrogance, may the paramita of disciplined conduct be perfected. To glorious Vajrasattva I pay homage. Vajra Satasamaya. Sabakamazu Jamejaram Jaram Jamatana. The member was a member. Anora do member was a Chidam Chiranguru. Chidam Chiranguru. So what the Masarasa the Samaya Manubala Yamba. Umbazarasa the Samaya. Umbazarasa the Samaya Manubala Yamba. Anora do Mimosa was in a member just about Anora do Mimosa was it a member just about Gamma. Allora mi posso vedere mi mangio solo che posso già mettere Sabasidi Mimaya Zamaka Anurata Mimo Zabazen Oh, Umbajara Sato Zamayama Anurata Mimo Zabazen Anurata Mimo Zabazen Anurata Mimo Zabazen Umbazra Sato Zamayama Balaya Baza Anurado member was a member. The member was a The member was a dog member was a book member, Anurado member was a The member was a dog member was a book. Anurado member was a member. Oh, Anurado member was a member. Anurado member was a member. Oh, the member was a dog member was a book member. The member was a dog member was a book. Hazamayaza. Now, please go back to your opening recitations, page 16, the seven branch worship. So the seven branch worship, this particular 12 verses, they come from Bodhisattva Samantabhadra's King of Noble Aspiration Prayers. This is the most famous version of the seven branch worship. And you could say that from this particular text, many other seven branch worship prayers have been composed, but this is the basic one. The seven branches are a complete, you could say, seven parts or seven limbs, sevenfold. The first two is paying homage and making offerings. Actually, most of the verses are dedicated to paying homage and making offerings. And this emphasizes, I think, all having more verses for these first two aspects, emphasizes the importance of doing this for us beginners. For beginners, paying homage and making offerings is said to be the ground. Paying homage is the essence of paying homage to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. The essence of paying homage is to deepen our conviction in the qualities of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Or you could even say, mainly conviction and confidence in the qualities of Buddhas. And so in order to, and then not only a conviction or devotion to the qualities of Buddhas, of the awakened mind, of the awakened state, but also a conviction in the possibility of us becoming that. So an attraction to those qualities, wanting to obtain those qualities ourselves. And so that's the essence of what we mean when we say paying homage with body, speech, and mind to the objects of refuge. And in order then to become Buddha, we have to rely on the Dharma and the Sangha. So therefore, we also see and clarify for ourselves the qualities of Dharma and Sangha. Then the act of making offerings, the outer offerings, whatever offerings that we have the capacity to gather and to give to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The inner offerings, meaning beyond what we are able to gather and arrange, we can mentally, whatever it is, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thoughts that we experience, we know how to offer that to the objects of refuge. The secret offerings are the offerings that arise from our meditative experiences. And then the suchness offering is offering realization, offering understanding. Whenever we gain some deeper understanding of the Dharma, that is said to be the best type of offering to offer to the Buddhas, to offer to the idams, to offer to the gurus. So these are the first two. Second pair is to lay aside, to expose and lay aside our faults. That's the third. The fourth is to see, also exposed in some ways, right? To see, to recognize the good that exists, the good that exists in others, the good that exists especially in our sublime guides, the good that exists in the three jewels, in the Buddhas, and to rejoice, as well as the good that exists in us, our virtuous practice, our pursuit of virtue, our pursuit of the path, and the qualities that have arisen as a result of you practicing Dharma. Sometimes we forget to do that, like check in with yourself and say, and see and recognize, oh wow, so much progress has already happened. I now have the precious Dharma. How wonderful. I'm now inspired by Dharma. How great, how unimaginable this is. And give rise to joy, rejoicing in not just others, also yourself. And this is part of the worship of the Buddhas, part of pleasing Buddhas. So these are the four now. The next two, as a pair, you could say, is to request the Buddhas, our guides, to turn the wheel of Dharma, to show us the way. Then to request our guides not to pass into nirvana, meaning not to give up on us. So that's six. Then the seventh one is the dedication of merit. Dedication of merit. Now, some of you may notice, bodhicitta is not explicitly given as one of the branches. Because in some ways, these seven branches, their origins are in the so-called Hinayana. So this applies commonly to whether you are walking the Hinayana path or walking the Mahayana path. Again, I have to remind you again and again and again, when I use these terms, when our texts use these terms, Hinayana and Mahayana, they're not talking about Buddhists in a particular culture, Buddhists in a particular country. They're not talking about Buddhists in Southeast Asia. Hinayana and Mahayana is talking about the capacity of the practitioner. So the Buddha taught those with lesser capacities, gave them what's more relatable, what's more workable for them in that moment. And necessarily, again, right, we all have to start there. That's the foundation. So these terms, yeah. So anyway, so bodhicitta is not explicitly given here as one of the seven. But as those who have taken the bodhicitta vow, then let bodhicitta be the underlying motivation for doing, for offering this sevenfold puja, recognizing that bodhicitta is the offering that truly and truly pleases all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. There's nothing that makes them happier if we're able to offer all of this motivated by bodhicitta. Because bodhicitta fulfills the aspirations of all beings. It fulfills the vows of all bodhisattvas. It fulfills the reality of all Buddhas. So from the level of ordinary beings to the level of all those who have entered the path and training to become Buddhas, to those who are already Buddhas, bodhicitta is what truly pleases all beings in samsara and nirvana, whether they explicitly know what bodhicitta is or not. With regards to those beings who are not yet on the path, in fact, what satisfies them, what can satisfy them in the end, what can deliver what they are looking for in the end is bodhicitta. All those who have entered the path to awakening as Buddhas, at all levels. It is bodhicitta that sustains them. It is bodhicitta that they are aiming for. And finally, the reality of Buddhas. What make Buddhas Buddhas is the reality of bodhicitta. They are the embodiments of bodhicitta. And so offering bodhicitta is the ultimate offering. Nothing pleases them more. Nothing makes it more meritorious. So if we know how to do the seven branch worship with the motivation of bodhicitta, then this becomes really a magnificent practice. In Kyuba Rinpoche's own kind of example, in his biography, it's mentioned many times how he focused a lot on sincerely making these seven branch, seven-limbed offerings, and especially using this particular text. So page 16. I think the dog heard my praise of how family practicing together is so wonderful. So doggy, the last few days have decided I'm going to join them. How wonderful. Now you have 3 generations practicing together. Sometimes Judy or Sister Tomo's cats decide to turn up, but cats are a little bit more, they have their own minds. They don't exist to please people, but they also want dharma, but maybe they don't want to show it, hiding in the background. In all the worlds of the 10 directions reside Tathagatas of the 3 times before each of you, lions among humans. I prostrate joyfully with body, speech, and mind by the power of this aspiration to noble deeds. All conquerors appear vividly in my mind with as many bodies as there are atoms in all lands. I prostrate to all you conquerors. In each atom of Buddhas, numberless as atoms, all in the midst of the heirs of the Buddhas. Thus I conceive this Dharma Dhatu as completely filled with you, conquerors in this way, with infinite oceans of praise and oceans of diverse melodies. I sing the excellent qualities of all you conquerors and praise all of you, gone to bliss with the best flowers and best garlands, best music, ointments, and excellent parasols, finest lamps, and superior incense. I offer to you, conquerors, with excellent garments and best fragrances, and sandalwood powder heaped high as Mount Meru, all wondrous offerings perfectly arranged. I offer to you, conquerors, these vast and unequal offerings. To each and every one of you, conquerors, with the power of conviction in noble deeds, I prostrate and offer to all you conquerors all the harmful deeds that I have done with my body, speech, and mind under the power of desire, hatred, and ignorance. I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in all the meritorious deeds of all conquerors in the 10 directions, and the heirs of the Buddha, solitary realizers, hearers still in training, and beyond, and all wandering beings, you who are lamps of the rolls of the 10 directions, who have unobstructedly attained Buddhahood through the stages of Bodhi. O you who are my protectors, please turn the unexcelled wheel of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly beseech you who may intend to manifest final nirvana. Please remain for as many eons as there are atoms in the world for the happiness and well-being of all wandering beings. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. So especially this last one, dedicating all of this. Here, indirectly, bodhicitta is mentioned, as in, all right, you dedicate the merit of these 7 branches uh, to the complete bodhi, to the complete awakening of all beings without exception. So this is a good prayer to kind of be familiar with. Anytime, anywhere you can offer this. It's a way to kind of also uplift the the feel of your practice. Sometimes, when we do meditation, when we're cultivating, like the bindu, uh, especially if you're taking like a day, to do it, or a few days if you go into a short retreat. Mm, from time to time, throughout the day, uh, making this offering from the heart, not just from the mouth. Feel the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, feel the presence of the objects of refuge, and make offering using these 12 verses, these 12 stanzas. Uh, it can be very helpful, very simple, but also very meaningful. And as we say these words, as we listen to them, so especially saying the words is also listening to the words. So again, don't just let it be on the mouth level, but you're also hearing, you're hearing the Buddha's words, almost as if the Buddha is speaking to you. And then you're hearing the words of these 12 verses, then it can begin to subtly change your mind. The natural state Mahamudra, there, when we are training the mind, you could say, it's a very direct way. But sometimes that directness is not so digestible. Even if you feel like, that directness is so direct, and in a way, like you feel, oh, so simple, but yet so profound, right? But that directness is not always easy to digest. So therefore, we have all these other elements. Some of us would notice and say, oh, compared to other forms of Buddhism, gosh, in Tibetan Buddhism, there's so many things. Yes, yes, of course, there's so many things. But especially in the tradition of the early Kagyupas, these so many things, it's emphasized again and again that they are to be done in between the main practice of training the mind. Training the mind in terms of like Lojong style of training the mind. But even in the Lojong style of training the mind, which is the legacy of the Kadampa masters, A lot of people forget that it's not just the relative bodhicitta, which is all those lines, uh, but included in, for example, the Lojong and 7 points. Among those lines are 5 lines fully dedicated to training in ultimate bodhicitta. And ultimate bodhicitta, in the context of Lojong, is what we call natural state Mahamudra in the context of the Fivefold Path. So you have to cultivate those ultimate bodhicitta, yes, but sometimes ultimate bodhicitta isn't so easy. So we have to ease ourselves into it. Also, because the words involved in ultimate bodhicitta can be deceptively simple, deceptively even attractive, right? We may underestimate what these words are saying. We may underestimate what these words are saying. So the early Kagyupa masters, if you look at these, they are famous, right? Many of them are famous for their Vajra songs. They're famous for their Vajra songs. So these songs, if you look at the songs, basically 2 topics become very clear. One topic, one area that these songs are focused on is continuously bringing our attention to the truth of impermanence. The truth of impermanence. And in recognizing the truth of impermanence, how we should act. When exposed to the truth of impermanence, therefore, how should we live when we understand the truth of impermanence? So many advice given about that, and mainly, right, the advice there is see impermanence, see the unreliable nature of all the experiences and all the investments that we put into this life. See that clearly. Then, depending on our, specific situation in life, how much can we lay aside, realistically? Lay aside. How much can we simplify? Then simplify. Learning how to simplify the complexities of our lives, the desires that we have, the ambitions that we have. Simplify. Even Dharma ambition at a certain point, not too early, not too early. Too early, it's not the right approach. But at a certain point, even Dharma ambitions, simplify. So one side of these songs always talk about this topic again and again and again. Then the other side is talking about given instructions. They are singing about their own experience. They are singing the songs to guide their students. Sometimes it's to guide their students. Sometimes it's to express their own joy when they finally see the nature of mind and when the realization that is arising, and they express that. And that is when you have words like, oh, it's spontaneously present, it's effortlessly accomplished, it's the most natural of the most natural, it's most blissful. And then at that point, in those songs, they also say, now we are no more needing to put aside. We also no need to pick up, no attachment, no aversion. Now just naturally abide and naturally be. All this, right? And even the language of now, whether I'm in the mountains or I'm out on the city, it makes no difference to me anymore. Samsara and nirvana is one, right? But you see, so here is, I think I've said this before, and I say again and again, yeah? This particular side of the early Gyalpa masters actually is very fashionable. All these, what I call, right, part-time Mahamudra warriors, weekend Mahamudra warriors, right? It's like, you hear these things, you're like, oh, as we would say in English, oh, so I can have my cake and eat it too. I can, keep all my samsaric pleasures, and also be enlightened. See, it says, no need to give up, no need to reject, everything is okay. We only hear one side of these songs, but no, these songs always the other side. Put it down, put it down, put it down. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Time's running out. Don't kid yourself. These days, right? Let's say we live to 100 years. Let's say. Probably most of us won't live till 100 years. But let's say you live to 100 years. So that means what? In other terms, 100 years is 360,000 days. More or less, give or take. 360,000 days. One third, more or less, give or take, is spent asleep. Gone. 240,000 days left. Here, how many of those 240,000 days are left? So if we begin to tune into, this gross impermanence, then it should bring into focus, It should bring into focus the truth of impermanence. But the Buddha's teachings of the truth of impermanence is not just gross impermanence. It's also subtle impermanence. Now, subtle impermanence is not about, oh, you will die, which is true. You will die, and there's no guarantee what happens when you die right now. Your mind is not trained enough yet. So that's the gross impermanence. But the Buddha's teachings are also goes deeper than just gross impermanence. It's also by paying attention to the subtle impermanence, we can also understand nature of mind. We can also understand the truth of emptiness. Impermanence is the truth of emptiness in the context of measured time. But the deeper truth of impermanence is what is called emptiness, lack of inherent existence. So actually, all these teachings about paying attention to impermanence, paying attention to unreliability of what is attractive to us right now, seeing the truth of that, all that is actually leading us towards understanding emptiness or shunyata. Now, regarding shunyata, which also lies, at the heart of um, Mahamudra practice. So, mm, mm, it says, right, uh, this emptiness is related to this part where we have just started on the without signs. So, in that context, it's called non-mentation. And to help us understand non-mentation, I said, it's helpful to borrow from the Zen tradition, where they make a distinction between uh, separation from thoughts and no thoughts, or non-mentation. That the inferior understanding or the incomplete understanding is the position of wanting to be separated from thoughts. You want to be here safely, quiet, protected over here, and you want thoughts to stay over there. And so you see there is this duality, The thoughts are impossible, oppressive, so stay over there. I want to stay over here. So then you try to insulate yourself from thoughts, from conceptualities. Thoughts mean conceptualities, both the cognitive and the emotive, both the heart and the mind, the stuff of the heart, the stuff of the mind, emotions, thoughts, right? Cognitive, emotive, all of that. You say, stay over here, and you want to be here. And constantly, you want to be here, and you want conceptualities to stay over there. So that's the lower way of connecting, of understanding the nature of what is it that we're dealing with. We want, so that's called separation from thoughts, separation from conceptualities, separation from mentation. But here the Mahamudra understanding is non-mentation, non-conceptuality, non-thoughts, or no thoughts. Meaning, this is based on the understanding that, in fact, thoughts, conceptualities are temporary existing phenomena, and therefore no meaningful reality to them except that they temporarily arise. So here again, temporarily is pointing to what in another context we call impermanence, right? So this is the subtle aspect of impermanence. Impermanence from the obvious, the gross aspect, one purpose, contemplating that, helps us to focus on what's meaningful. But when we focus on what's meaningful, what are we focusing on? We are now beginning to learn about the nature of thoughts, the nature of emotions. They are temporarily arising phenomena due to causes and conditions. And therefore, they have no real significance. So then, this is understanding non-mentation. So you don't have to fight these thoughts. Then, Kampopa takes it a further step, even deeper, where he calls it, that these conceptualities are the self-radiance of the mind. So you see, right, this evolution of understanding. First, conceptualities, thoughts, emotions. what we call conceptualities, nam to. All of this, enemy. Keep them over there. Keep you over here. And it's necessary to have this kind of, to train in this kind of restraint. But not ultimate. Right? You have to evolve to the next level of your practice, where you see, like, actually these enemies, which they are, in fact we call them, right, afflictive emotions, as poisons, as enemies. In fact, they are only temporarily existing phenomena, interdependently arising, and therefore lacking in inherent existence, and therefore lacking real power. And so we don't need to fight them, right, in the way that we think we have to at the beginning of the path. But then, third step, not only are they temporarily arising phenomena, because even when you recognize them as temporarily arising phenomena, you may still think, but where does this come from? Where does this samsara come from? When you evolve to the third understanding, you're like, actually, its nature is not samsara at all. Its nature is the radiance of the mind. So that is when Gampopa uses expressions like, it's the sun and its light rays. It's fire and its warmth. It's sandalwood and its scent. So when we have this third understanding, then it's completely no more problems at this third level of understanding. No more. Yes, Judy.
Does this mean then, from that standpoint, it's neither samsara nor nirvana? It's not either one?
Why does it matter?
Well, if it's neither, then it's our interpretation of
No.
which.
Don't try to answer that question.
Well, you know I am.
Don't. It's intellectualizing. Then you neatly put it into a concept box, don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yes. Don't. Yes. And then we have a concept box for it and we file it away. Don't. Certainly there are expressions like that. But then often, I ask myself, but what does that mean? When suffering turns up, can I think it away and go, oh, this is nirvana? Not likely.
Isn't it the same thing with the expression that we hear of neither coming nor going?
Yeah, but again, don't
It's,
don't put it into
yeah,
these
okay,
concept boxes.
okay.
Yeah. The trouble is, I think a lot of us are exposed to this this kind of language, right? But then See, if you were exposed to this kind of language and then you have received the training of a geisha or a kempo, then at least you can use this kind of language and these concepts to fine tune your understanding the Dharma in the context of debate and all of that. And there's a particular function there. But for us, when we have been exposed to these words, these ideas, these concepts, we tend to interpret them through our materialist based underlying attitude, and then it gets turned into like kind of kind of Buddhist psychobabble. I'm not saying, everything you said, yes, it's all true. Yes, correct. So I'm not saying, oh, no, you don't have the right understanding. I'm trying to encourage all of us to feel this, whatever that means. I don't know. But I know it's not thinking it. I used to think it's thinking it, but no, feel it, you know. Feel it. Throw body and mind into it, and 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 yeah, and feel it. We are exposed to Kempo Geshe talk, but we don't have sufficient training in the Kempo Geshe context to do anything good with these concepts. At least for them, there's a function, maintaining the Shedra, maintaining the school of dialectics, things like that, debate, tradition. But for us, that's not our context. So mainly, still, mainly still, first need to see clearly. This is samsara, this is nirvana. Need to be clear about that. What are the causes of samsara? What is the causes of nirvana? Then see more clearly, repeatedly, in truth of impermanence. And in the face of that, what should we do with our life, with the complexities of our lives? Can we put it down? Can we put it down more and more, or not? Yeah. Then you can begin to taste, the lack of inherent existence of all these troublesome states. And then you may be able to savor, to taste that, in fact, even these temporarily arising conditions and experiences are part of this mind. So, 3 levels. Mostly now we should be parked in the first one, yeah? With some sprinkling of words and ideas from the second and the third one. Mm. So treat them as sprinkles. Don't go further investigate them. But what are they? Where can I put them? No, no. Let them kind of annoyingly, yeah, linger around. For some of us, it's annoyingly lingering around because you're like, I want to figure it out. But for some of us, it actually it exists in a different way. It is like, oh, it's good. Right? I'm going to put a lot of energy in the first one, but it will be tempered, so that it doesn't go in the wrong direction. See, the first level, it can go to a wrong direction. The restraint part, it can become so rigid, so tight, until we snap. So then having some understanding from the second and the third level can insulate us a little bit from going too far. But then the first one, really is where we should park ourselves in, and then apply the method. And the method in the Dugong Kagyu is none other than the Fivefold path, the Fivefold Mahamudra, which is not referring to a particular text, but it's a set of 5 organizing principles, which sometimes it's a big volume of a very, systematic, going through part by part by part by part. Sometimes that's how the Fivefold appears. Sometimes it's just in one practice, one short practice. The 5 parts are there. And sometimes, or most of the time, it's off cushion application of the five elements. And in many ways, that's really important. More important is the application of the Fivefold off cushion. So a document that I shared before, a PDF, a small collection of teachings and instructions on the Fivefold, various aspects of Fivefold, as this formal practice with various stages, and also as a way of being in the world, and how to put the Fivefold into any sadhana that you're practicing. So there's one short booklet that I've shared, which is Kyabje Nubar Rinpoche's instructions on the Fivefold, taken from many years of his public teachings. His disciples have very devotedly gathered all this and then translated into English. I think that book is very helpful for us to have a deeper understanding of what it means to practice the Fivefold beyond a, a, a text like we're working with now. Obviously, we need some anchoring point, some reference point. And so we have the text that we have now. But it's much more encompassing, this approach of the Fivefold path. So there is a text composed by Kyopa Jigten Sumgön, one of his main disciples, called Shedang Dorje. Shedang Dorje came from a scholastic background, trained as the equivalent of what we would call a Kempo today, very learned. So he came, in fact, because he had heard, the reputation of Jigten Sumgön and the growing community in Drigong, but in his understanding of what Gilbert Rinpoche was teaching, he felt that, he was very sure, not felt, he was very sure that Gilbert Rinpoche was teaching wrong things to people. That, all this, imprecise talk, misleading people, with all this Mahamudra talk and, making it sound so easy. And so he came, and wanted to refute Gilbert Rinpoche. But it said that he came and he never left. Then, after becoming a disciple, he said to Gilbert Rinpoche, he said, uh, uh, I need to like make, uh, what do you call it? Amends, for my wrong view and my arrogance. What can I do? Gilbert Rinpoche said, you write, something to mm, to explain to those who are of the scholastic type, to explain to them uh, what you understand me as teaching. That will be very good. So he composed this text called The Essence of the Mahayana, or The Heart Essence of the Mahayana, Denning. And I recently shared a new project coming out of Germany, where the second, we now have 3 Kenjens in the Drigung Kagyu. First is, of course, our senior Kenjen Gonjo Gyaltsen Rinpoche. Then, after that, we have Kenjen Nima Gyaltsen, who is now in retreat with His Holiness in Bhutan. Then, the current Kenjen active is Kenjen Gonjo Rangdro. So, Kenjen Nima Gyaltsen recorded a whole set of very accessible teachings on the heart essence of Mahayana, that Germany is translating, and with subtitles in German, if you understand German better, or in English. But the YouTube for the English has been released. I'm involved in the project. I'm proofreading the English subtitles. So very helpful, because the heart essence, or the essence of the Mahayana, is actually about the Fivefold Path. But filling in all the blanks, filling in all the, all the necessary kind of background to even before Bodhi, even before Bodhicitta. So it begins with things like 4 thoughts that turn the mind, things like, 4 conditions that you need to have, the condition of a teacher. And so it takes Gampopa's jewel ornament, Pamodrupa's, Pamodrupa has a Lamrim text. It takes that. It takes the early Kadampa's Lamrim tradition, and it combines all of that to basically fit it into the Fivefold, so that the text is actually on the Fivefold, although it's not in the title. It's called Essence of the Mahayana. So I think altogether in this series there will be 53 videos. The first 13 is already ready, but they're releasing it slowly, one by one by one by one. So do go watch whatever has been released. Yeah. Okay. So today we're gonna end here. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me, and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtues, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Changchu Semcho Rinpoche. Ma ge ba na ge gyu chi. Geba Nyamba Meba Yang Gone Gong Du Belwa Sho. Okay, you all have a good day. Ta ta.